Well, America Saves Week is actually a national program, right? That was created primarily by America Saves and the American Savings Education Council to help Americans save. It's a campaign, and it's done within the week of February from the 21st to the 25th. And it's actually one of those things that we think about, and you wonder, coming from the type of country we live in, which is a capitalistic country, you will think that we will have, this area of our lives down pat, that we would be very good at doing this. And yet, many of you may recognize that when COVID hit, many individuals didn't have enough savings to last them, past 2 weeks. We're talking about millions of individuals, right? So hopefully, we can learn from that experience and begin to put some things in place that will help us save a lot more for the future and for the near future. We have 3 objectives today. We want to discuss 10 key ways for financial success. So some of the things that you can begin to put in place to begin to start thinking about so that you can acquire a certain level of financial success, financial freedom, and also to aspire to those things that we call the American dream. So we're here, we live in this experience of being Americans, and yet we see that some of us are not able to make it the way others are. And that's a tragedy, right? Because no one really is born with these things in mind. They are actually taught. It's things that you actually learn and have the experience over time to put into practice. We will discuss how to develop a budget. Why? Because a budget is a foundation of all of it. You all are basically in your homes. One of the things that really you begin to understand about a home is that it has a foundation. Well, the foundation for saving is actually being able to have a budget in place. And we'll talk a little bit about how you do that and how you do it quickly. And lastly, we will share a little bit about some of the saving resources that you can use to develop your, what I call wealth baskets. So we're going to talk about how you can have different wealth baskets in place as you're thinking about saving. All right, let's begin. So, the thing that is fascinating about this slide is that the Federal Reserve has been involved in tracking how Americans spend or don't spend money for a lot of years. And even though we are looking at the fact that we are improving the way in which we save, more Americans are involved in that process, we still have a long way to go. And part of the reason that we have a long way to go is that life gets in the way. Life gets in the way. Things that are unexpected get in the way. Things that you have not planned for get in the way. Emergencies come up that you have no idea how these emergencies actually come about. They get in the way. And as a result of that, savings becomes so much more important, because savings is one of the tools that we have for when our finances, emergencies get in the way, right? You're not going to avoid things happening to you. They will always happen, but we have ways in which we can plan for it in a smart way so that you can basically be prepared when these types of things occur in your life. What are the 10 keys to financial success? Well, these are very basic concepts. I'm going to even try to make them more basic for you. The first step, or the first key that we use, is one that says spend less than you earn. So if you earn $1, you spend 50 cents, you're good to go. You're spending less than you earn. But if you're making $1 and you're spending $1.50, you're not spending less, you're actually spending more. So you have to find a way that when you look at your income, what mechanisms or how should I be able to look at my income in such a way that I'm actually spending less? Because truth be told, you might have that as an intention, but when you look at all of your expenses, they may be a lot higher than what you're earning. So we need to start thinking about then, what is it that we need to do and put in place to reverse that, to make sure that we are actually spending less than what we are earning. The only way you can do that is to be able to start looking at a budget that will give you the answer to that particular situation. Have a plan, right? What does that mean, have a plan? I like to think of that a little bit further. And rather than thinking of it, of having this huge plan that is a 2, 3, 5-page plan, that's not what we're talking about. Having a plan basically is saying, have a way of looking at your finances so that you can achieve some of your goals. Let me put a plan in one sentence. At the bare minimum, 10% of what you earn is yours to keep. At the bare minimum, 10% of what you earn is yours to keep. That's a plan. That means that if you are earning $10, $1, 10% of the $10 that you earn are yours to keep, and they're yours to keep for life. You're not going to be taking that and spending it. It's yours to keep, so that over a lifetime, if you practice that principle, at a minimum 10% that of all that I make is mine to keep. It is the most simple, straightforward way for you to put a plan in action. Think about it. Think about it over a lifetime. If you have accumulated 10% of all the money that you have made in your lifetime, when retirement comes, you will have something that you can actually use towards your retirement, and that's why you keep it. Well, we also know that one of the principles of financial success is to be prepared for expected events. So we know things that are going to happen in our lives. We know that we have to, for instance, prepare for, a mortgage. We have to prepare for food. We have to prepare for certain expenses. We have to prepare for, insurance, right? So we have to make sure that we prepare for those activities and we put those in our plan, so that over a year, we know that of all the money that we are getting, we know that some of that money is going to go to those expected events in our lifetime. We know we want to go to college. You have to have basically a plan to save for college. What about preparing for unexpected events? Well, those are the things that happen in life that you have no control over, right? Those are things that you have no way of knowing. In a week or so, you're driving your car and all of a sudden you need a new battery. It was doing fine, but all of a sudden you need it. So those are unexpected things that happen in life that you want to have some degree of control over. And the way you control that is to be able to have some funds that can address those unexpected events. Now, this number 5 is really interesting. I like to give it a different name. They say, understand your interest rates and fees. Well, I want to tell you that it's really more about not being in debt. Not being in debt. When we are in debt, that basically is a way of all of your wealth being just sucked out of you. And unfortunately, the system we live in has mechanisms in place that the money just gets sucked out of you. You don't even know where it's going. You don't even know how it got out of your bank account, but it got out of your bank account, right? And one of the ways in which we need to control debt is controlling our credit cards. Our credit cards When we borrow money to our credit cards, we pay interest on that, 12 to 21%. If you are using some of these type of loan, companies, you're going to be paying between 25 to 400%. So you need to stay away from those mechanisms that charge you a high interest rate, because that's where a lot of your money gets sucked out of your account without you even paying attention or knowing that that's what's happening. Keep a healthy credit report. Well, one of the things that you want to think about in doing so is that, we go to doctors, and the reason we go to doctors is because we want a clean bill of health. And when we get that clean bill of health, we feel good about ourselves. Well, the healthy credit report is almost the same way. When we have a healthy credit report, meaning that we are making our payments to our creditors consistently and not falling behind, and we get something that we call a score that then is basically utilized for almost every other large expense that we might want to have, like a mortgage, like a car payment. So it's important to have that healthy credit report pretty much addressed all of the time, because that's how you're going to be able to get some of the resources, financial resources that you need to get those items that are really huge items. You should know your credit score. Your annual credit report is provided to you annually for free. So, make sure that you know that score. And I think, Annie and her organization, Marianne, they help you guys with making sure that your credit actually is in good shape. Avoid waste. What does that mean? Well, simply don't buy things you don't need. Don't spend money on things that you don't need to have. Don't, take your money and, for instance, if you needed to buy a Coke, buy 12 cans of Coke rather than one, because the 12 cans is a lot cheaper than if you were to just buy one can of Coke. And that's a bad example because Coke is not good for you. That's too much sugar. But you guys understand what I mean, right? You can buy in bulk, and that way the cost is cheaper. And don't waste your money. Take advantage of your tax breaks. Well, the way in which you can do that better is make sure, get a shoebox, get something from Office Depot and have all of your receipts in place, so that when it's time to submit your taxes, you're very organized and you have the ability to do so without much issue. Fill in the financial gaps. Sometimes this one is related to number one. You want to certainly have more income than expenses, but when you don't, what do you do? But you have to fill in that gap with maybe getting income from other places. You probably need to have a second job, or you have to find a way really to increase the amount of dollars that come into your household in ways that don't stress you too much, but give you the opportunity to cover the gaps. Giving back to our community. Well, I can tell you that giving back to community is one of the perhaps easiest ways in which you can feel good about yourself. And all of a sudden you begin to have this attitude of mind, this way of living, that you recognize that when we give back, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to give with money, but it could mean that you can give with time. You can spend 2 hours in a nonprofit organization, even the one that sponsored this event. Spend 2 hours as a volunteer with South Fair CDC. Those 2 hours really and truly translate to dollars, because if you're making $10 an hour at your work and you're giving 2 hours to your organization or your church or whichever organization you care about within your community, that translates to $20. So your time is as valuable as if you were to be giving cash to the organizations in the community that you live in, that you care about. This is a sample budget, and I want to walk you through why this sheet is so very important, because it is the very beginning, the essence of what's going to allow you to put in place a plan that allows you to save, because you're able to see more when you have things in writing. And when you look at this budget sheet, and you all will get all of these handouts emailed to you, so you don't have to worry about that. But I want you to look at it just kind of like big picture. And it has this little box here that says income, this blue box. And then it has all the gray area that says expenses. Now, pay attention to this. In your income box, you only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ways maybe in which you are generating income for your family. But look at all of the areas you have where that money is being spent, right? So that's why I say 10% of all you earn is yours to keep, because the system that we are in makes us spend a lot of the money that we actually work for in all of these things that make life worth living. Here in the miscellaneous section, it's very interesting that they have savings and investments. So why is that there? And you think about that. Miscellaneous is a word that is interesting, because miscellaneous basically means those things that are less important. So it's suggesting that everything here is very important and this is less important. But we have savings and investments here. So one way that financial advisors, when they're talking to their clients, the way they say, okay, how do you go about putting some money away from the very beginning and saving? The easiest way is to put it in your expense columns like they have here. So if you take 10% of what you make and put it as an expense, literally you have stashed that away. But rather than it being an expense for somebody else, it is a savings to you that comes through your expense line item. It's a trick, because you're tricking yourself to paying yourself first, because you have included yourself in the expense line item. That's how easy and cool it is. If you can use these little techniques, you will find that all of a sudden your savings will begin to increase, because this happens, and I will show you later how that happens automatically. The reason we have this budget on a monthly budget is because, well, at the end of the day, you want to make sure that your income, everything you're making in the blue, is more than the total of all of your expenses. If that's true, then the bottom line will be positive, and you will have what we call positive cash flow. If it's reversed, if your total income is less than your total expenses, this bottom line is negative, and it's what we call negative cash flow. And sometimes you will not be able to see that unless you take the time to put everything in a monthly budget form where you can see it with your eyes, right? They also have some softwares that you can use. Let's say on computers, you can use Excel, or you can use a spreadsheet, but they also have some apps, and they're very, very good, that allow you to include all of your income and all of your expenses. You can track it weekly, monthly, and it's really available to you just with your phone. And that's a way of actually getting to creating your budget in a very easy, very familiar way, and you can begin to have some control over your monthly budget. So it's important for you to create this. These are the ways in which we develop a budget very quickly. Your total monthly income includes all of your salaries from where you're working, your You want to track your expenses. We use words here like fixed, variable, and discretionary expenses. That's pretty straightforward. A fixed expense is something that doesn't change. So every year you're going to have a mortgage of, let us say, $100. So every month is $100. That's very fixed. A variable is something that changes every month. So one month your electrical bill will be $10. The next month is going to be maybe 15. The next month 5. So it's variable. It would be changing. And discretionary, believe it or not, discretionary is where most of us put more money in, and that's the area that probably requires the least amount of money to be budgeted, because that's the hamburgers, that's the Starbucks, that's the things that we don't really need, but we just want, right? So you want to be able to track all of those expenses, and you want to be able to calculate, again, your monthly expenses in your budget. You can do it by paper, you can do it through a computer software, or you can use a smartphone apps. I kind of like the smartphone apps, frankly, because they are teaching tools and they keep you in track and they also keep you motivated. So I would recommend that you do a search for smartphone apps, and several of those will come up that are also free. You don't have to pay for them. Compare your monthly income to your monthly expenses. That's very important, right? That's when I tell you, do you know if you have positive cash flow or you have negative cash flow? You got to know the answer to that. And the only way to know the answer to that is to put, pen to paper. Just put the numbers down. You want to be able to evaluate and adjust your monthly expenses, meaning if you know that you're spending too much, and you have to look at where you are spending and what can be eliminated from your spending account, from your expenses. Some of those things you might realize you don't need to have. If you look at your discretionary expenses, you can say, oh man, I'm spending too much money eating out. Maybe I need to start cooking inside and save some of that money. So that at the end of the day, you want to have control of what comes in and what goes out in your financial life. You want to be able to have control of that. Nobody is going to basically, help you with that more than yourself, because the systems and the system we live in is one that is designed for money to easily go out of our pockets, out of our banks. And you are the only one that can decide, well, I don't want that to happen without I knowing. I want to have control as to what goes out of my pocket. And the only way you can do that is to know where you are putting your money, what you're spending. All right, so once we think about saving, you have to ask yourself the questions, what am I saving for? Why? Why do I need to save? Well, one of the things that you need to understand about saving is that saving allows you to do a lot of different things in the future. Savings, nobody saves for things in the past. You always save because you either want something in the present or you want to achieve something in the future. So you need to understand, am I saving for the short term, for the near future, for the long term? Those are important questions, because when it's long term, like for instance, retirement, you know that's going to take decades. So you can afford to put a little bit in every month and let it grow, let it accumulate. And we call that compound interest. So over time, that grows. In the near future, you may need a car, you may need a mortgage, you need to have a down payment. So you save for that. In the short term, you maybe have to pay off your credit card debt. So know why you're saving, but create your bucket where saving happens automatically for you. And this is really what I want to share with you for you to understand. Automatic saving means that if you have income coming in from your job, you have created a mechanism where that income gets directly sent to your checking account, to your bank, or whoever holds your money, or your credit union. And then some of that money goes directly into your saving account. So again, 10% of what you make is yours to keep. So you can designate right there that 10% of your income goes directly into your savings account and is separate from your credit account, so that it's separate from your checking account, so that your checking account is what you are spending your monies and all your expenses in, but your savings account is being saved. When you get a certain portion of monies into your savings account, then let's say you save $5,000, $10,000, and you're saving that for a particular purpose. You can then take some of that money and create another savings account for the longer goals that you might have. For instance, a mortgage, or the down payment for mortgage, or saving for retirement. So you start creating these buckets of wealth, and they start very small. What makes a difference is the consistency in which you do that. For all of you who are working, and you're working for a company that provides you with a retirement fund or the ability to save for retirement, that's one of those mechanisms that you can utilize for the rule that I mentioned about 10% of all you make is yours to keep. So you have 10% of your income go directly into your retirement fund. And in that way, you basically are able to save automatically. So when you don't see it, when you don't see the money, you don't miss it. So if you use your financial institutions, wherever you put your money, in a way that they are saving for you automatically, you don't see it, you don't miss it, but it's there, accumulating interest. So rather than you giving your interest to the credit card, now you are earning interest in the investments and the saving tools that you have in order to basically grow your wealth. I know I'm a little bit over time here. Let me look at some of the questions that you might have, see if we can answer some of them. Okay, on the chat. All righty. Yeah, so Marianne talks about the word behavior. It's an important word. You know, it's funny, right? So I just want to give you a quick reminder, Marianne, because you did remind me of something that I wanted to mention. When I was a little kid, I think when I was, well, let me talk about my son. When he was a baby, you know, one of the first things that he got one of those savings, you know those little pigs, and they're like savings banks, right? So we probably all have had one of those in our lives. That's how you begin to create the habit for saving from very, very early in life all the way through adulthood. It's very simple. But again, that little pig represented a way of you putting money away. You're just putting money away. And when you teach kids to do that, all of a sudden, it's automatic for them. I have boxes here. I have actually jars where when I'm walking and I find a penny, I pick it up and I just dump it there. Over time, you have all of that actually accumulated for you. Somebody was saying something?
I was saying that I also pick up pennies when I see them.
Oh, I do, yeah, without a doubt. My wife doesn't like me doing it, but
it's almost stopping traffic at a convenience store. Penny, yeah. But by the end of the week, you could have a dime. That counts.
Yeah. All right. This is a really great question from Lorena. Lorena, how do people who have gotten in a hole get out when a budget is put into place? Well, you know, again, there's multiple ways in which you do that, Lorena. One is, okay, you have gotten into the hole. The budget will tell you where your expenses are. And part of the reason you have gotten into the hole is because technically you're probably spending more than what you're earning. So you have to find a way of eliminating some of those things or curtailing some of those things in your expenses, particularly some of the variable expenses. The fixed expenses you have to pay. You have to pay your mortgage. But variable expenses mean that you have a little bit of control as to how much you pay in those variable expenses, or even if you have them. So you have to start eliminating some of those, right? Additionally, it's a formula. You have to increase your income. So one way of increasing your income is to do a side job. Maybe you can get a part-time somewhere and earn a little bit more income. But this is the trick. When you earn extra income because you're trying to get out of the hole, you have to use that extra income to get out of the hole. You don't take that money and spend it on something else. You actually have to allocate it in the things that are making you be in that hole, right? And so you have to have a little bit of discipline with regards to getting out of a hole. It's not impossible. Your credit cards, debt is what puts us in a hole. Freeze them, literally cut them, put them in the freezer. If you are not able, one kind of way of looking at it is, if you are going to use your credit card, but you cannot pay for what you are purchasing in 3 months, do not use your credit card. Again, that's another way of savings, right? So if you want an item, but the item is too costly, the first thing we do is, oh, let's take our credit cards, and all of a sudden, yeah, the bankers that gave you that credit card are happy because because now they're in your pocket, as opposed to you taking that same period, 3 months, and saving, $100 towards your $300 purchase, and delay gratification for 3 months. Save the money and then go purchase stuff cash. Okay, I hope that answered that. So when you look for tax breaks that apply to you, so there's actually a service, it's called Vita, that is usually used and is free. So I will ask you to avail yourself of that service, because some of the tax rules change, and those services allow you to basically look at your taxes, and they have a way of helping you in seeing what tax breaks apply directly to you. So that's one of the things that I think I will look at in terms of looking at your tax breaks and how they benefit you. Importantly, though, make sure you keep your receipts. For some of you that may have, for instance, your own little business, a DBA, having a business helps you with your taxes. So when I said, hey, get a second job, well, just for an example, and I'm not suggesting this has to be it, but what if a second job for you is to mow grass? Go to neighborhoods and cut grass. Don't do that just by going and cut the grass. Create a DBA, structure it into a little business so that you can deduct every single thing that is related to you cutting grass, and it helps you financially. So have a little business structure. The simplest one is a DBA that allows you to take advantage of some of the tax breaks. If you have an LLC, and these are simple instruments that you can create for yourselves, and it's not out of your realm. It's not out of your realm. Remember what I told you. The lot that we are born in doesn't mean that that's where we need to remain. We can always scale up. We can always move from one stage in life to another stage in life, and preferably we want to move up the stages, not go down the stairs. We want to be going up, because that's how we are built. That's how we are created. Marianne, our free homeowner and financial literacy counseling can help you pick a plan of action that is doable in accordance to your short and long-term goals. We do offer one-on-one phone appointments. Take advantage of Southfield CDC, guys. Marianne is telling you right there what they do. Take advantage of it. The 30 minutes that you did today, take another 30 minutes and talk to Marianne. Okay? They have some tools for you to use. It is important that you review your bank statements and highlight all of your expenses. And to the degree that the bank shows you all of the expenses, so all you have to do is take those expenses and put them in your budget form, and you're good to go. And I will agree. I think that needs to be done regularly. Ana Vasquez, I have 6% going to my retirement. Should I go 10%? Well, Anna, I love that question. So remember what I said, right? The rule that I like is 10% of all I earn is mine to keep. So if you're asking the question, can I do 10%? If you can do 10%, you should. At a minimum, I think you should do 10% because, again, think about it. It means that you are spending 90% of your earned money and for everybody else except yourself. And you're just keeping 10% of it. That's not being greedy. That's being wise. That's being very smart. You know, I know some of you probably are churchgoers, and you know, a tithing is a rule that says, you know, you tithe 10%. Well, I like to say you should use that same rule for yourself. You pay yourself first. You tithe yourself first, because the other 90% already has owners, right? So yes, I think if you can get to 10%, you should. And sometimes people are working for companies that do a match. So a company might give a 3%. So they say, okay, if the company gives 3%, then I can give 7% because that makes up 10% total. No, that's not 10% of your money. That's 3% from the company. You are just giving 7%. So you are shy 3%. Okay. All right, I have another cool question here. Marianne, you got to give folk your telephone number. And she gave her email there. So folk, I know I am over time. I hope that this quick and dirty workshop was valuable to you. It certainly was to me. You're going to get handouts with a lot of the websites that I will recommend that you actually go seek out. For the America Saves program, I would recommend that you join them. You take a pledge, and with that pledge, they will help you look at savings from short-term to long-term, and they also send you periodic financial information to improve your literacy, your financial literacy, and they further educate you on that. So I would recommend that you take advantage of those things. So unless, are there any other questions, or are those all the questions you had in the chat that you wanted me to address? If you have a question, I would be very happy to answer any of the questions you might have.
Okay, anyone else have a question they want to ask real quick before we end today's workshop? Oh, they
Everybody's
wanted
on mute,
your
so-
contact info.
This is Ana Vasquez real quick.
Yeah,
Ana Vasquez.
yes, Anna.
Okay, you did say to increase the 10% for my 401k from the retirement.
Yeah, what I said, Anna, is that if you have the ability to put 10% towards your retirement, a retirement program is a way in which you can fulfill the 10% rule of
Correct.
what you make, right? Because that gets stashed away. You don't see it, you don't feel it. And it's going to be used in the future down the road. So that is clearly one way in which you can do your 10% with your company. And what if your company doesn't offer a retirement program? Well, you can always start an individual retirement account and put money directly into that individual retirement account. You can put up to $6,500 a year. So there are
Okay.
always ways in which you can save money for the future, and saving that 10% is something you will use in the future, but you want it to earn a lot more interest for you over time.
Correct. Being in the company for 25 years, increasing it to the 10%, would you rather have the 10% there or do it on a savings on the other end?
Yeah.
Instead.
So yeah. So the reason I would like to have it there in the retirement account is because the investment instruments in your retirement account have the ability to grow larger with higher returns. Now, there's always risk, right?
Correct.
But you can probably get a higher return on your investment in those retirement accounts, and you can always be safe. You don't have to be, totally aggressive in your portfolio, but all in all, that is the fund that is for long term. And for long-term funds, you want to have them in the highest bearing interest accounts possible. If you were to just put that in your regular savings account, but savings accounts at banks are just giving maybe what, 0.1%?
1%, correct. So basically I'm 54, so just go ahead and go with the 10% for retirement at 55, 59 later on. I'm hoping maybe 65, but the thing is going to the full blown for 10% rather than in a savings.
Yes, at a minimum, yeah. At a minimum, because, and that's kind of like, again, the rule is at a minimum 10% of what I make is mine to keep. Mine to keep means I'm keeping that. I'm not
Correct.
giving that to anybody but myself down the road.
Thank you so much for answering the question. Thank you.
Welcome. You're welcome, Anna.
All right, so we'll definitely share the handouts that Domingo gave to us, and we'll also share, is it okay, Domingo, that we give them your contact info once we send the handouts?
Yes, so please do that. And guys, don't be afraid to reach out to me. Don't, even if you think the question is silly or whatever, just reach out. I'll respond to you guys. Again, you have to have a mindset that there are people out there in the community that can help you. And not everybody that can help you is going to charge you. Yeah, some financial advisors you have to pay, but that's not the deal here. You have your organization. You have Mariana. Work with Marianne. You can ask me a question. I'll basically answer those questions fairly quickly and help you out in whichever way that I can. And we can talk more about how do you set up your plan. Let's do this. Let's do this. It's not that complicated. However, it does take the discipline. You got to do it if you want to see some change in your life. And I think that's, if you didn't want change in your life, you wouldn't be listening to this conversation. Literally.
Good deal. Thank you, Domingo. We
Yeah.
appreciate your time this evening.
Absolutely. Guys, y'all have a good evening. Go be with your lovely family and enjoy yourselves. And, I pray you dream of saving tonight. So when you wake up tomorrow morning, you can start, thinking about that a little bit more and build your buckets of wealth. Your buckets of wealth is not only one, several of them. Build your buckets of wealth, but you got to start with uno, right?
Yeah,
You
everyone
can't do
commit to
one, you're
picking
not
up their
gonna do
pennies.
two.
Pick up pennies this week. That's the start.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
All
All
right,
right, thanks
guys.
Okay,
everyone.
bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Number 17.